Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IGEL Weekly, the Community Edition, episode number 87. My name is Barry Browne. As always, with me is my partner in crime, Mr. Sebastien Perusat, who I'm getting better at pronouncing his last name. Seb, how are you in this fine Friday afternoon for you, Friday morning for me?
I couldn't say something else than we finally made it. It's good to see the Friday being there now. I don't know, it has been a crazy week. I didn't travel that much, but it felt like every day was a Monday.
Yes, I know
I
what you mean.
can't tell why.
I got off a plane yesterday afternoon at, I don't know, it was about 3:30 my time, PM. And by 8 o'clock, I was in bed. I was just tired. Long week.
Yeah, I saw that. You had a couple of travelings around Canada and the US. Am I right? Or
No, just in Toronto for a couple of days. We put on an
okay.
event with actually IGEL was involved. So Chris Feeney, who we all know and love,
Yeah.
he came up to the Great White North and helped us put on an event with some of our other partners. It's always great to see Chris. He's always he's
Oh
very,
yeah.
very knowledgeable and he's super passionate about the space. So
Yeah.
every time we have an opportunity to bring Chris in, we bring Chris in. He's one of those
And
guys
he's
you
a
want to
kind
have around.
person.
Yeah, but
He's
he
just a kind
actually
person.
yeah, exactly. But yesterday when he was leaving, he actually he flew from I want to say Raleigh to Buffalo and drove across to Canada to Toronto from Buffalo. So yesterday when
Wow.
he was leaving, he wanted to leave early so he can go do the tourist thing at Niagara Falls.
The
So
only thing that I've seen in Canada, I must be fair, are the Niagara Falls. So that seems like even for the US people, it's still something to visit, right?
well, yeah, because there's the Canadian Falls and there's the U.S. Falls is what we call them. I'm sure
Yeah, I
there's an
know. Yeah.
official name, but for the U.S. folks who are listening, our falls are better.
shouldn't
Um,
have I shouldn't have expected something else.
Just before we kind of get into the IGEL content, Seb, I want to bring up
Please.
something that a lot of our audience probably don't know, and you and I just discovered, I think on our last podcast when we stopped recording, is you and I are both massive Formula One fans,
Yeah,
and this weekend is a big deal in the calendar. We go to Las
Las
Vegas,
Vegas.
and it is going to be. I hope it's going to be an absolute mess. I hope nobody gets hurt because it's going to be a disaster. I think with the Formula One, the FIA not planning for cold weather in Las Vegas, so
Yeah.
somebody didn't open up the weather map and shutting down the strip, making a mess of the strip. So I for one, am extreme. I never watch free practice in for Formula One, but I'm watching it this weekend just to see what it's like. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. The only problem is the actual race is on at 2 a.m. in the morning my time, and I was like, no, I'm not going to be up for that.
Seriously? Come
Yeah,
on.
I think it's
I,
a.
I'm
I think
still
it's.
doing. I mean, do you remember times where, I mean, we're not living in the same times, all right? But Melbourne was starting at 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, my time. Suzuka in Japan was starting at 5 o'clock morning. And I was always staying up. I mean, still stayed awake or stayed up for that for that races. I was loving it. And at
Yeah,
the
but
moment, they're still getting later. So we're getting the US races mostly at end of Sunday, which is fine for me either. But seriously, you're not waking up for your Formula One races?
see, Seb, this is the difference between you and
Very.
I. I'm an old man. I need my beauty sleep. That's the difference between me
Come
and you.
on. How
No,
old are you, by the way?
45.
Yeah, come on. You are five years ahead of me. So, okay, yeah, we are old. Okay, you're right.
As they say, it's all downhill from 40, right?
Yeah.
No, so they have this thing called a DVR now, so I do use that and I watch it when I wake up. So see, at least I didn't say I'm going to tape it like my parents do. The old school they use VHS.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to tape it, but I use DVR because I'm not quite that old yet.
So
Um,
you didn't arrive on the live streaming platform yet for Formula One, or
no, I just watched the local broadcast here. We actually get
okay?
the Sky broadcast here, which
Yeah.
is excellent. They did a really good job of that. But it's it is what it is. It's fine. But 2 a.m. by the time the race is over, it's 4 a.m. Then I go to bed. My kids are up at 7 a.m. No bueno, no bueno. But anyway,
Love
enough about
this.
Formula One and the mess that it's going to be this week. Let's move on to some perhaps for our audience some more relevant content. Let's talk about Behind the Hedgehog. So
Yeah.
IGEL has their own podcast now, run by Renee. How do you pronounce his last name, Seb?
Rekka.
Re-
Rekka.
oh, just Wrecker.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like record, but without the D, more or less.
Okay. Because I knew there was accents and stuff in his name, so I wasn't sure, actually how to pronounce it. So
Yeah, there is no accent. I mean, René has an accent on the last E, which is saying not. Yeah, it's you're pronouncing it A, like in French.
Renee. Okay,
But
so
but
I got it right.
yeah,
Okay.
René, just René.
Okay, so the first episode is in the bucket
Yeah.
and it's out. I was lucky enough to be the first guest, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, the goal and the vision of that particular podcast, and what the community can expect from I'm using air quotes here, the official IGEL podcast.
So what we thought about is, I mean, first of all, we have to say that we had great masterminds who inspired us, especially the XenTegra podcast that we did with Andy and Former Times, now with you. So the idea hit us to say, hey, why not having something like this, but a little bit different, chosen by IGEL themselves, just because we have topics that are not that related maybe to what XenTegra is covering in their podcast. And that's where we said, okay, let's maybe stay less technical as we did in the beginning of the community podcast 2 or 3 years ago. And that's what René is doing at the moment, right? So he is not talking deep tech as we are doing, you and me, or with Andy or with Chris, but more general stuff around the IGEL ecosystem, but also IGEL employees, but also our partners. So it's more really a podcast, two people talking about something, less like us talking tech. And that's what what we expected, because we have a huge amount of people in the community. We have a huge amount of great mastermind in the community, technical, but also less technical people. And they're not raising their voice that much in the written form. But if you speak to them, it's an absolutely different topic. And that's what René is covering right now. So we are looking forward to the second episode. This time, I can make a small teaser. It will be a female colleague that we have in the Inside Presets team in Bremen, who is an extremely nice and kind person, but also extremely technical. And she had a great talk with René on last Wednesday, if I'm right. So let's wait for the next episode. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. So, cards on the table. I never listen to my own podcast because I don't like the sound of my voice. So I'm going to skip episode 1. I'll start listening on episode 2. Deal?
I'm doing exactly the same. I must admit, I never re-listened what we did because I don't like my own voice, but that's something which is, it's just a human behavior, right? Hearing your own voice doesn't sound natural.
Exactly. But what I do some from time to time is I bring up the podcast. We're in the car with my kids, and it shows the host is Barry Browne,
nice.
And they think I'm a celebrity, right?
You are. Not saying
let's not go that far. But to your point about the Behind the Hedgehog podcast, it really was like René and I had never met in real life, and I don't think we even actually ever had a voice conversation. But it was very, very natural, very very organic, and to your point, it was less technical, more about the people involved in the community as opposed to the technology of the community, and there's real soul to that, for lack of a better word. So I really enjoyed the conversation. I don't know what it was, 35 or 40 minutes, but it was really great to meet René to discuss things outside of work or technology. And I look forward to the upcoming episodes with René and other guests from within IGEL and from within the community.
One thing that he doesn't have is me talking to you in German.
See, he needs his little shtick. You gotta have your hook to pull the audience in, right? And Seb teaches Barry German every week or every 2 weeks. See, we can teach him a thing or two about podcasting.
That's something that we don't have at the moment.
But one thing we don't have that he does have apparently is intro music. So we keep talking about doing it, but we haven't done it, Seb, and that's on me. So it'll happen one of these days.
What he did here, I mean, he tested a couple of different systems, and I mean, having us talking on Zoom is definitely great, right? So Zoom has already a pretty good codec quality, but what he is using now is a tool called, I mean, we can do a little bit of publicity. Maybe we'll get some influencer points back. He is using Riverside, and Riverside does the following. It's not recording a live session about a third-party server. It's really recording your voice locally on your laptop, uncompressed more or less. And from there, you can do some post-processing afterwards and remove background noise better than what Zoom would do in that case. That's a really powerful tool. I was impressed to see what you can do there. And just sharing with our our audience, Riverside, if you are interested in podcast, is something that you should maybe look at because it gives an even better quality. Not saying our one is not good, but it just zoomed, right? And the Riverside is giving a kind of an additional level on compression and so on.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because when we finished recording with Renee, I was asking him a number of questions about Riverside. For people who are listening, it's riverside.fm. And I actually want to talk to you about that offline, but as soon as you brought it up, I'd like to actually move our recording to Riverside and, do the processing, do the cleanup to that. But this is kind of, behind the curtains of the IGEL community podcast, so we can table that discussion. But I think, for our next session, we'll move to Riverside, see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to Zoom. But if it works, great. Better quality for everybody that can hear some more of my baritone voice as we blab on about technology.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so that's the podcast. So that's great to see that there's more activity, more social activity coming out of the community. To transition away from that a little bit, I want to talk about the traditional kb.igel.com versus the GitHub repository that Ron maintains. Sorry, it's not the GitHub repository, it's the GitHub
Docs.
GitHub Docs, that's what it's called. So is the GitHub Docs that Ron maintains, is that supported, for lack of a better word, or is it just a side project for Ron? Because I see references to both in the community. Sometimes we link people to the KB, sometimes we link them to the docs. So I'm just wondering, what is, I think KB is the official one and the docs are unofficial. Is that correct?
It's kind of correct. Most information that Ron is gathering and is sharing, thankfully, with our community through that GitHub Docs is helping a lot of people, but they're not getting reviewed because that's why I'm coming back to the KB. If you get an article in the knowledge base, you can be sure that it was approved by product management. It was approved by the developers. It's tested. Not saying it's not tested on GitHub. Don't get me wrong. But what you see there is usually maintained over versions and checked if it's still available and still valid. That's something that Ron is doing by his own, and I'm just impressed how much time he's investing and how much time he is taking for this because I know how much time it's consuming. That's really impressive. So what you're getting on GitHub, I would call it more a kind of a best effort thingy or thought that we are sharing with you. Most of them are ready to be implemented in the knowledge base, but mostly not because we are not able to deliver that information to our customers due to sometimes legal, sometimes due to a lack of time because we're not able to test it. Not saying it's right, it's a shame, but that's where we are at the moment. So we are extremely thankful that there is a gap which is filled by this GitHub doc because Ron is just extremely fast on it, way faster than our German processes. Because if you think about knowledge base, you have to think about German processes, about data privacy and so on. And that's sometimes slowing us down a lot.
Okay, so I get it. So what I think I'd like to do, Seb, I want to bring Ron on as a guest in our podcast.
Oh, yes.
Because I've met him in person, I don't know, 2 or 3 times now. Super, super smart man. An absolute guru in terms of Linux. But I'd like to, pick his brain as to, the genesis of the GitHub docs. So if you're open for that, I'd like to book him in for, our next recording. And I guess that's going to be early December. So that'll be our Christmas present to the community. We'll bring in the smartest guy in the room and have him talk for a little while.
With pleasure.
Okay. It's just thinking about the community again. So for those folks who don't know, the community is built on Slack, and Slack is a collaboration application that's been adopted by many large organizations over the years. But I'd say in the last 2 months there was an update to Slack that has ruffled many feathers, including mine, because I just don't like the new workflow and I don't like the layout. So just speaking of the community, Seb, have you had any feedback about the new Slack UI, the new Slack experience that the users are experiencing within the community?
To be frank, not that much.
Okay.
Because people are tending to separate what we're doing inside of the community and what we are answering inside of the community and separate it for the tool we are using. So they know that we don't have a huge amount of influence if Slack is changing something. So I don't know. I guess it was Joey Vandermark, a colleague of mine, who asked in the community chit chat how people are finding this new design. And it was like you always 50-50, I would say. Some are liking it, some are not liking it that much. But I like the general the general UX. But what I'm not liking that much, the activity piece. The activity piece is driving me crazy from time to time. And it still has some bugs. I mean, not that much, but we discussed it with Milan Potok from Canada, by the way, who is also an absolutely mastermind in terms of tech and scripting and so on. And we have the same kind of issue. Sometimes you see a message and it disappears. I mean, you can search for it, but it's not in the activity thread where you would expect it. And a couple of other things. But I mean, it's okay. It's mostly okay, I would say.
Mostly okay. That's not a solid thumbs up. It's mostly okay.
Yeah, it's a kind of it's okay.
So keeping on the topic of Slack as a platform, I know you've been doing a whole bunch of work in the Community Insiders channel, which, for the people
Yeah.
who are listening, there's a separate kind of private channel within the community for insiders and VIPs where we kind of we have some off-topic conversations there, but it's often places where we talk about, upcoming features, upcoming plans for the community. And so, Seb, in that insiders channel, you've been working through, where you've been exposing us to some new workflows that will be coming to, the public channels, I guess, for lack of a better word. Can you walk us through, what you've discussed so far and what we should expect in the coming weeks, coming months?
Sure. So it's just a teaser. It's a kind of a spoiler alarm that we can give away now. And thankful that people like Barry are part of that insider group. The insider group is community members who went above and beyond in terms of collaboration, who helped a lot of people in the community create their own blog posts based on our Cosmos ecosystem, shared a lot of knowledge. And that's where, Barry, you are definitely outstanding, and all the others too. That's where we are awarding them one time a year. I mean, we'll come back to that in the beginning of 2024, hopefully in a Disrupt event, but who knows? Who knows where it would happen? But that's where we usually, yeah, that's something that's another topic. But that's where we are awarding them. And beside that, they have also access to specific informations like NDA information that we're not sharing with the wider audience. But beside that, we're also doing some fun stuff and sharing features that our community is not delivering to everyone, but for testing purposes first. And I will try to describe it as best as possible. So let's imagine that IGEL is preparing an event in south of Germany regarding retail customer council. I'm at the moment sending that event into announcements and on events. And guess what? If you're living in Canada and you are a partner, I don't think you will be that interested in that post, right? So you will not be interested to join an event in south of Germany. At the same time, we have to post it somewhere, right? And having different channels doesn't make really sense because we are already losing track on some specific posts. People will not read it because it's a channel where there is not a lot of activity. So we thought, hey, how could we tailor the messaging better to your needs? And we started with brainstorming about how we could use it. So I went through a Slack workflow where you can subscribe or unsubscribe specific topics like vertical retail, vertical government, agile community events in DACH, which is basically the German-speaking region of Europe, rest of world or North America. And as soon as you submitted this form, it will create a specific spreadsheet entry. This spreadsheet entry is then used, and I know that's a kind of process which can only come out of my weirdo mind, but then the spreadsheet is read by a JavaScript. This JavaScript is then talking to the Slack API, is creating a group, if not already there, and adding you as a member to that group. So we are talking about the Slack user group. From there, you would say it's mostly done, but not exactly. So as soon as a group is changing, it will be updated via the API. Okay, easy one. Now that this one is done, let's imagine that our marketing, because that's a goal in the midterm, is sharing an event in Canada regarding our government customer council. They will now send it still in our event or announcement section, but we'll add an event in North America and add vertical government, and you will get a personal notification about that event in that thread. And that's something which was impossible until now, or with a huge amount of manual work, because I would have to add every user by hand to a group and remove them on a regular basis. But I wanted to automate it as best as possible. And I know it a lot of insiders because of I'm not a developer, right? So I made a small mistake, and I sent about 60 or 70 in notification because I was testing to all our insiders. So sorry for that again. It will not happen again. But yeah, that's where we are, and that's where we just start. Because now that I understand at least a bit better the API, there's a lot of fun stuff to do around it. So let's keep in touch on this. I will share it hopefully maybe in mid of next year, but I have some great feature that we could add.
You say middle of next year or next month?
The notification piece should come end of this year, hopefully in December. But the additional stuff that I'm trying to do at the moment with the API is something that will come more mid of next year, because that's something which is related to our IGEL Cosmos, the Insight service, and Slack. But that's something which is extremely early in the planning phase.
Right. It's amazing, really, for the people who consume Slack on a daily basis, a lot of us see it as an IM tool, but it's a whole bunch more than that. It truly is a platform with a robust API that you can, tap into to extract and manipulate data. So it's very, very powerful indeed. But I'm not going to let you off the hook, Seb. You talked about disrupt. So somebody, I don't remember somebody from IGEL posted a picture on LinkedIn.
I know.
Who was it? I don't remember his name.
Will not say it because at the moment it's a huge discussion if we should have posted it or not. But it's a good friend of mine, so all good. I like him a lot. But yeah.
So let's leave the name out of the conversation then. But
would be better.
So the image was posted. The smart people in the IGEL community took a copy of that image, reverse Google image searched it, or did some internet voodoo magic, and they figured out the location of that. Well, hang on. They think they figured out the location of that picture. I'm not going to say the location, but I think we know where we're going for disrupt. But let's leave it at that. If anyone wants to know where that is, send me a message on the community, and I may or may not tell you for a bribe.
I would have to get killed if I would tell something. But to be frank, I learned from LinkedIn too. So if that would really happen, where this reverse image search came out, it would be interesting because we don't even get the information internally. So let's see.
Yeah, but
it's warm there.
Yes, it's a warm place in the world. I'm not even saying it's a warm place in Canada or the United States or Jamaica, but it's warm. But I didn't know reverse image search was a thing. so I learned something new every day in the community too. So like I said, it's filled with some smart cookies, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So moving away from Slack for a minute, moving away from Google Foo, let's talk about some web UMS stuff that's up and coming. So I understand from you actually that there's going to be some feature feedback requests coming from the product development team, product management team. Maybe walk us through that a little bit, if you could.
Yeah, definitely. So as you know, we are in an extremely close discussion with product management, and we are thankful that the product management is listening a lot to what the community is telling. They're knowing that our customer base, our partner and distributor base who are active in the community uses our solution since years, decades, and can give a lot of great feedback regarding UX and UX design. So a UI design. And we had an amazing call. When was it? Last week? This week? I have no time feeling at the moment. So it could have happened a month ago. I wouldn't say something else, but I guess it was beginning of this week. And it was only to our insiders. So again, there's something that was on the NDA, so we cannot talk too much about that. But the upcoming version 12.3 and 12.4 your web UMS, general UMS, will, I can tell you, blow your mind, because it would change more or less everything that you have seen until now in the web UMS. So I can give you one teaser, because that's something which is not extremely confidential. I would just say dark mode, and from there you can believe whatever you like. But also the general approach, how the web UMS is working, how the web UMS is organized, how you can interact with the devices, is going more and more to be a full-blown console instead of being just a console for first-level colleagues working with the tool.
Yeah.
From there. Sorry, please go ahead, Barry.
I was just going to say, add some feedback without getting myself in trouble. So I was on that webinar and I saw the product in action, and for any of the quote unquote, the critics of WebUMS today, I think they're going to be very, very pleased with what's coming down the pipe. The world's largest critic of light mode, aka Leon, he's already on board because dark mode is coming. We can say that. We can't talk too much about the other features, but I was as both a consumer of WebUMS and somebody who deploys it on a regular basis. I can say the future looks bright. Pardon the pun.
You're right. You're right. But I must say we didn't had that feeling from the beginning on, right? So I know that the WebUMS, even for myself, wasn't the best alternative to the Java console. Not because I liked gray console working on Java, but more because I was missing a lot of features and a lot of small features like right-click on device. And right-click on device is something that you're using in the years in the Java console. Why couldn't we get it in the WebUMS? So that's just a small piece, but also customizing this tool and customizing the UI is something that a lot of customers ask, right? Because if you're working as an MSP and you want to provide different WebUMSs to different users and different companies, you might want to separate them from color, you want to separate them from theming, maybe from logos. So just saying, sometimes it would have been better to have that feature from the beginning on rather than having it integrated after the launch. But hey, we are where we are at the moment. And that's where I must say that I'm again extremely thankful for our product management that they are listening, because I'm in touch with Florian Strobel, who is a project and product owner of WebUMS, UMS, and WebUMS and UMS. And we are in the starting blocks to share Paul a survey, which hopefully will go out today, late time my end, so hopefully at 5 or 6 my time. And we will ask you people to prioritize which features you would like to see coming in the upcoming versions. Because for the moment we have a queue of, 20 different features, but we are giving priorities from our point of view. But guess what? We are working for you guys. So we want to hear from you which of that feature, like file management or license management or template keys and groups, would you like to see first, and which could maybe take a little bit longer to get integrated. So that's already a spoiler. I'm not sure when the podcast will be shared, but on Friday, today, on the 17th, you will expect it on the announcement channel.
And so just to follow up to that, it's going to be posted in the announcement channel in the community. So 11,000 people will have access to that survey.
Yeah.
Is there plans to have that posted more broadly from maybe the IGEL LinkedIn account or IGEL? I don't even know if IGEL has a Twitter account, but so we get broader exposure.
Kidding. I'm still saying Twitter too.
I will be too. It's just like it's still VMworld. It's not VMware Explorer. Some things are just so ingrained in you.
Yeah, great analogy. You're right.
Yeah, so they roll off the tongue a little easier.
Coming to your question, to be frank, for the moment we are mostly focusing on the Azure community, because there we know that only people inside of the community will have access. And we're not targeting everyone at the moment, we're really targeting the Azure community. But in the second step, because even if I would be happy to do so, but we don't have every customer, every partner in the Azure community yet, we will share it afterwards. But the focus is really on the community first.
Yeah, and I love hearing that, because that means product management is going to, I don't want to say the hardcore users, but the people who live and breathe within the IGEL ecosystem, to get feedback from them. And that's going to dictate the development roadmap for the next, 6, 12, 18, potentially longer than that months. So it's wonderful to hear.
Exactly. So that's something that we will do on a regular basis. So I must be fair. I'm not a big fan of every Microsoft product, but in that case, we're using Forms. Just because we are lazy, and it's integrated in our Microsoft suite and it's available without any additional cost. But I must say that for a quick and more spontaneous way of getting service working, there are alternatives we are looking at. So I can give you also a little bit of spoiler. We're testing it with Polly, so Polly, which is a well-known survey tool, which is extremely well integrated into Slack. And we tested already a couple of times, but we are limited in terms of answers because we're using the free version. So I raised a purchase request for the enterprise level, whatever thing you would call it. And let's see. what happened there. But for the moment, we are sharing it in forms. So you could forward it to someone else who would not double check the IP address or whatever. But let's stay fair. We'll try to make IGEL community first and then the other one.
Okay, so let me know what I can do to push the agenda to make sure the community is actively filling out that form, because the more people that give their feedback, the more, I don't want to say correctly, but the features that are lacking will get pushed to the forefront in terms of active development, and everybody wins there. So if 90% of people want feature X, that now goes to the front of the line, as opposed to the 1% use case who may want UMS tags or something. I'm not saying that's by any means unimportant, because it's very important, but it's just an example.
Yeah, you're right.
Something I learned on Renee's podcast. So I was asking him about people who spell IGEL lowercase I, uppercase GEL, and I'm like, does that bug you? And he's like, yes and no. And he eventually, I understand that IGEL means hedgehog, but IGEL is actually an acronym. And he said it so fast in German that I have no idea what he said to this day, because I don't listen to my own podcasts. What does IGEL actually stand for?
Innovative Gesamtlösung der Mikroelektronik.
Okay, Seb, put that in the chat, please, so I can put it in the notes, because I still don't get it.
I will send it over to you. I will send it over to you. Now, I mean, it's really interesting, because we are coming really, that's just a fun fact, maybe that our listeners might be interested to hear. We was last week in Bremen for a business trip. So Bremen's about 600 kilometers. Not sure how it's in miles, but I would say something around 800 miles, something like that.
No, the other way, probably about 400.
Yeah, exactly, the other way. And we met there with a couple of colleagues from the US. We also met with some technical publications people, and I just took them out in the evening time and just showed them, even if I'm not coming from there, Bremen, which is a great city to get drinks and good food. But it's also the place where IGEL was created as a company. And I brought them to our major office 20 years ago, which is obviously not the case anymore since we moved to different other locations and we are not coming from that German holding anymore. But it just showed them the Melchers Group office, which is still active, and explain them a little bit where we came from, what the company was doing before buying or founding IGEL. That was an interesting one.
The history of IGEL, because there was something to do with Cincinnati in the US too. Is that where the first US office was?
Yeah, hold on.
Jeffs, I want to
Wasn't
say
it?
Cincinnati.
Yeah, was it CPC? It was Cincinnati. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're kind of running a little tight on time here, Seb. So let me ask you a question. U.S. Thanksgiving is coming up this week. What's the equivalent of that in Germany? Or is there? Because U.S. Thanksgiving is bigger than Christmas for the U.S. folks, I think.
Yeah, no.
But it's a big deal. What's the equivalent in Germany? Or is there such a thing? No,
nothing like this. No,
it's straight to Christmas.
Honestly, yes. We just have the 6th of December, which is Nikolaus. But it's just a kind of a really small version of Christmas. You're just giving maybe a small gift away. And childs are getting a little bit of sweets. But besides that, not that much. We are really focusing on the 24th, 25th, and 26th, and then obviously on New Year's Eve. But we don't have something like this. And I must say I would like to, because I like to eat, I like to drink, I like to meet my family. Well, why not making? Yeah, that's a good tradition we could follow.
What did you say it was called? Nikolaus? On
the Nikolaus. Yeah, Nikolaus. Hey, by the way, yeah. Seb teaching very German. Nikolaus. It's I will send you the link. It's a more religious thing, okay. But yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there we go. So I learned that I squeezed into German without even knowing it.
Exactly. So do you have something else that you would like to hear in German?
Yeah. I thought of it at the start of the conversation, but I don't remember it often. So let's leave it at Nikolaus for now. But we'll have some more German next time when we bring on Ron Nair, who's going to be talking to us about the GitHub Docs, and you can teach both of us something, because he probably knows more German than I am, because he's a smart man.
Oh yeah, way more than I do. So that's really a good person to ask for, definitely.
Yeah. With that said, let's call this a podcast. And to our US listeners, I know Thanksgiving is coming up very, very soon, so enjoy your Thanksgiving holidays. And we'll talk to you guys all again in probably the first week of December as we get ready for the Christmas season. And I look forward to chatting.
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much, Barry. I wish you a great time and see you soon.
Talk soon. Bye-bye. Oh, go for Stap and Go.